How do you feel about then the legal struggle that you have been so much a part of in terms of dismantling legally segregation?
Well, legal segregation has been dismantled, but the reality is legal segregation is not political. This is the political issue. The reality is has not been dismantled. We don't have any legal segregation. Segregation is legally and discrimination, but that doesn't mean a doggone thing about what happens in real life.
How does that make you feel about all of the historic legal decisions that you have been a part of? Does it make you feel angry, bitter, frustrated?
No, it doesn't make me feel angry and bitter. What it makes me feel is that somebody like me is going to have to carry that fight on. Somebody's going to have to finish the fight. Boy, am I getting angry about it. I've had a good time doing what I've done.
Well, when you say finish the fight, how would the fight be finished?
The reality is that nationally, discrimination is nationwide against brown people, brown people. And that is the fight that's still there. One of the elements that has to be done, I think, in that fight is that in the inner cities, poor black kids are being denied decent education. And that is my feeling is a priority. That has got to, those kids, those schools have got, well, most of the poor blacks are kids. Those schools have got to, you've got to fight to get those schools to produce so that those kids can get an education that will enable them to compete. And that, I think that's for the country. That is the key element that has to be done. The schools in Harlem and all the big cities are as bad now as were the segregated schools before 1950. Your kids are, and you're shaking your head. You see, that's what's so sad. Because you're a black woman, and you are an educated woman, and you're not aware of that.
Well, actually, I am aware of it because I'm a journalist. Well, I'm shaking my head because it is so frustrating that after all of these years...
Okay. Well, don't shake your head.
Oh, okay, I won't shake my head. I won't shake my head.
Because you give me a different impression.
But how do you fix that? Is it about the politicians now? Is it about who's? How do you fix it?
I don't. I think only thing I can think you have to do is you have to pour funds and energy into raising the level of those schools all over the country. And let's concentrate. See, I've always said this. We all in our lives are capable of only one or two good ideas. I've had a couple, so I'm passing it on to the next folks. I don't. Well, I won't say that finally. I would be very happy if I had the mental energy left to get involved in some of these things with some creative idea. But I'm ready to return back to pasture.
No, you can't. We can't let you go out to pasture.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you
We
do.
need your advice.
Yes, it's time.
It's
time.
It sounds as if we're talking about moving away from the idea of integration as the solution and moving back towards
Maybe.
separate but equal.
I don't really care anymore. All I want is for the schools that our poor kids go to allow them to compete. And there were a number of black who were from the South and so forth who came into schools and were allowed and had made it well in the mainstream, even though they came to segregated schools, because somehow those schools, they went on to someplace else and they got above the limitations of the school. And that's what I think that if, as I said, I don't really care anymore. All I want is those schools that our black poor kids go to be able to provide them with an education, enabling them to compete. And they're not providing it now. So, don't get me all concerned about integration. My goal is to do those schools.
What happens if nothing changes?
Well, we just drift along as we are. We just drift along as we are, Brown versus the Board of Education created a black middle class, first time. And that's going to have some effect. You're going to have black people with knowledge are going to do things. And for a long time now, we haven't been in the public arena in terms of stuff. We've been more concerned with our personal lives. But, we go like this. And some of these people are going to get in the public arena and come up with creative ideas. It's not going to be Robert Carter, but it's going to be some of the other people.